For today's episode of Back to the City, I'm very excited to be joined by, in the duplex, 3 members of BATTLERAT, and of course in the Minnehaha recording company, the whole band. This is ahead of the record release for Done Deal, which is at the Eagles in the ballroom.
In the ballroom.
On Friday. So let's begin every episode as we do at the Minnehaha recording company. Here's BATTLERAT performing the closing track and the first single from Done Deal, Faking It. That was Faking It by BATTLERAT. Welcome back to the duplex.
Thank you.
According to Joel Shanahan, speaking of the previous record, it's an immense and piano-powered pop rock collection that features powerful and breathy crooning over twisting chord progressions, slinky bass parts, and even some dialed-in odd meter grooves. We just experienced all of that, I think, in the song Faking It. Are there any new components to Done Deal? Is it any aspect of the spoils sound more prominent?
I think all of those things apply.
Yeah.
Slinky bass parts, a couple moments of odd meter grooves going on.
Yep.
As far as new components, a couple songs are maybe more upbeat, uplifting.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
Which would you say is the most uplifting?
I guess Safe has sort of a driving quality to it.
Yeah.
A little more energy in it.
Yeah, let's zoom in on Safe. So it's interesting that you say it has a driving quality. It's got like a gallop, I think. Is that a conscious intention? It really sounds like a gallop.
Yeah.
And then there are references to all those pushed-on brakes. So, of course, the way in which the song sounds with this galloping or driving feel is at odds with what's being described, but what's being described is being critiqued. All those pushed-on brakes, all the extra steps you chose to take just made you safe at the wrong time. What came first with this song? Collectively, as the BATTLERAT band, did you develop the music and then think?
Well, Celeste writes all of the songs. Speaking of something like Safe and the rhythm that's there, that shuffle or the gallop, as well as the lyrics that would be what Celeste is bringing to the table, especially that rhythm, which is just kind of an interesting rhythm. And it really has to be there the whole time. So we have to, as a band, translate that to the best of our ability. First being drums, of course, because it's a rhythm, and then kind of playing off that. So then, her having an idea for the drums that laid more of a groundwork for that rhythm.
Okay. So you had an idea for Cody for the drums?
Yeah, I mean, all the songs were written and demoed ahead of time.
So you came up with a drum part? Is it?
Somewhat, yeah. Yeah, I mean, more it was the idea of how the drums and bass would kind of work together, and obviously that got changed from sort of the automated drum track in the demo with human ideas of Cody Brown who plays drums.
Yeah. And he not only plays drums, but I know from piano that he plays piano as well. He's been learning piano. Yeah. The way in which this sounds fits so well with what the song is conveying, exploring the idea of safety and through thinking about like speed and rhythm. How did it end up sounding like this?
The sound and the ideas of most of these songs kind of all happen when I'm writing the song. So in the translating it to the band, it's just how can we maintain the feeling. Even my demo might be a little bit off from what I'm going from, and then sort of translating that.
Do you always work with Cody first when you're coming to the band, or was it because percussion is so important for this particular song?
Not always, but that is initially how I started recording, was working with Cody first. And then since the band has been a little bit more solid.
That's been for the past 2 EPs, I think. Is that right, this lineup? Yeah.
So since then, I'll share a demo first, usually, and we kind of approach it together from there with these songs. That's what we did.
Ian first joined you for 2 songs on the first BATTLERAT record, those being Deep Sea and I Did Not Wake Up. So thinking back to what you were doing on those 2 songs, how has your role in the band developed?
Celeste mostly playing these songs on piano or accordion. There's that inherent keyboard sound. And she, at the time, wasn't, didn't have like a demoed guitar part or something like that over the song. So it was this experiment to be like, well, how does guitar fit on this? My approach from the beginning, I think, was to be a little bit more atmospheric and have it sound a little bit less like a guitar.
Okay.
Because there's so much music out there where the guitar is like the focus, but playing a piano, which has 88 keys, which has a frequency range larger than any other instrument, it's like that's a centerpiece to this, and that needs to be preserved. The first time I think we played those couple songs, we were in a basement in Madison. We have a picture of this, and I was like, I kind of remember that. And she had her piano and her accordion and her singing saw set up, and I borrowed someone's guitar and was basically just playing like I wasn't even playing notes. I was playing like string bridge noises with a reverb pedal.
Sure.
You know? And that's just kind of how I've tried to approach certain things with it, as being, in my playing, atmospheric. And I think Tim is a little bit more of a melodic player than I am. And that's how I think he and I balance each other a lot, is that I try to, you know, be supportive and atmospheric, whereas Tim is playing the lead lines that Celeste or he come up with.
Were you the atmospheric presence prior to Tim's arrival?
Ian was actually there before Cody, because Ian was also in Madison, so before any recordings existed other than my own little demos, basically it was just Ian and I playing songs, and it would be a lot of, I also had, aside from the saw and accordion, I had a hi-hat that I would use with my left foot, and other
Contact
auxiliary
mic.
percussion with my right foot, and
White noise.
basically I was constantly, it kind of was a way to not feel so alone performing. Just, I'd say, Ian, make some noise right here, you know, because I'm gonna do something weird and it'll sound better if there's more happening.
Yeah.
And then it really became clear to me that he enjoyed trying to find the nuances of making sounds.
It was solo, duo.
And then Cody came on board
And then Cody.
when Celeste moved to Minneapolis.
Yeah.
And that's how the first record was basically recorded, was her and Cody.
And Phil.
And Phil Molstat was sleeping in the Avery, who Celeste played with. And then I came in and did those two songs you mentioned, just you know, ones that we had done in a basement in Madison a couple times. And then from there, after that record was released, that's when Celeste started going, well, I think we should really flesh this out and have two guitar parts for the entire record.
A guitar that sounds like a guitar, as
Yeah.
well as what Ian
Well,
did.
also
Right.
for a while
Yeah.
before Tim, we had another guitar player, Darren, who with the songs we had written and with the new songs I was writing, you know, they would also switch off. Darren would often play auxiliary percussion instead of guitar, and Ian was maybe playing on. It became more and more songs during the set that they each played on, and then ultimately I was like, okay, I might as well write songs so that everyone has something to do.
It seems like it's organically evolved, and to some extent, as the particular musicians that have joined the band have evolved.
Yeah.
How exactly has that influenced the songwriting, the composition?
It helps me focus, for sure. It helps me narrow my ideas down.
Yeah. Because you're
Be
thinking,
more specific
yeah,
about parts.
yeah. What's Tim going to be doing?
Yeah. What can Tim do? He can do a lot.
He can do a lot.
so
Yeah,
it's
as,
really
as we're
nice.
witnessing today. Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get involved in the band, Tim?
I asked. It was about 3 years ago.
Okay.
When Darren, the old guitar player, left the band, I was at his last show, and so I just said,
It was perfect timing. It really was, because I was worried even during the show, just thinking like, man, this is sad. This is Darren's last show. What are we gonna do?
Beginning
I remember
of the end,
unloading and Tim coming up to me and being like, oh, I hear you need a guitar player. And it was like, what? That's amazing. And then Darren was like, I know him. He's really good. Like, okay.
Yeah.
And speaking of Phil from Sleeping in the Avery, a similar thing happened where he moved to Chicago. He was living with John McConville at the time, and Phil said, well, my roommate plays bass, and maybe you should ask him. And that was it. Tim came in to the Spoils session, having not rehearsed with us really.
So you had a lot of songs that you'd been working on with, what's the previous
Darren.
With Darren.
Yeah. And we were basically gonna record this stuff without a lead guitarist or a second guitarist. And Tim at that point came up to Celeste at that show and said, you know, do you need a guitar player? And it's like, yes, and we're recording. So
Wow.
Tim came in with Neil Weir at Old Blackberry Way or Bluebell Mall
Yeah.
now, and you know, recorded the stuff on old news and things like that. Basically writing those parts in the studio.
And
Super cool.
that was really surprising to me. That, I think, was big experiment for me in letting go and just trusting someone,
Yeah.
and also being so pleasantly surprised with all the ideas you came up with, that as opposed to, you know, holding on to my demos and really just trying to get every idea exact, it was like, wow, these are someone else's ideas that are really good and I like them. And
Is it fair to say that Tim's guitar parts on the Spoil songs that have Tim on, was that more of a departure from just Celeste writing all of the music than there had been before?
I think so. I mean, I'm sure there were certain parts
Yeah,
of
there were
like,
things
try
that,
this
that
or,
even that Darren had been playing
Yeah.
right.
that you guys either taught me or he taught me.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah. Or you'd heard it in the
Or
live
heard
show.
or listened to.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting that some of the concepts
Mhm.
that we're hitting upon as we talk about the evolution of the band,
Mhm.
I think is some of the concepts like within the lyrics of
Absolutely.
the new record. Is that a coincidence?
No. It's, I think a lot of my lyrics in general, there's a lot of perspective taking, so it's not entirely self-involved. But a lot of it is about the creative process,
Yeah.
creating in general, and everything that goes along with that.
So the idea of a creative process and like the journey that the artist goes on, there's lots of like traveling metaphors. So even back in Old News,
Yep.
which is, it's not old news, we can talk about old news. There's the lyric, nothing to follow, no one to lose to, miles and miles, but where is there to go? And then in the song that we've been talking about, Safe, there's this focus right from the get-go, everything that you thought you would need just made you safe at the wrong time. So we could be too prepared for this journey. This journey that we're going on with the band. We could have it all mapped out. Oh, the guitarist is leaving, we've got one waiting in the wings, but then you'd be it could be too safe.
Also, I mean, that it could be generally looked at in a lot of different ways, where there's decision making,
Yeah,
that we're processing all the time, these decisions that we're going to make
yeah,
or not going to make. And so safe is sort of like, has to do with overthinking things, over planning, and then ultimately what you end up doing, everything that you were worrying about basically not having anything to do with the moment. So
yeah. Of course, so although the lyric is about pushing on the brakes, making you safe at the wrong time, there's of course many times where pushing the brakes makes one safe at exactly the right time. So although it's obviously true that sometimes like playing it safe can lead to good results, what is it about the risk of playing it safe that kind of leads you to focusing on that, and the promise of getting lost? There's nothing to follow, for miles and miles, but where is there to go? That kind of lyrical focus will come up again in this EP too. It's just interesting a kind of return to the same territory where it's about kind of being lost.
well, I think the risk is sort of possession.
Yeah.
Of your free agency
Yeah.
and ability to make choices. Trying to prepare to not get stuck isn't necessarily going to help.
Yeah.
You might still feel stuck, even if you have everything you need and thought of every worst case scenario. It's like a camping trip. It's like we have all of our rain gear, but then it starts raining when, it's over there and you don't have it and now you're
Right.
soaking wet.
There's more to the camping trip than being prepared.
Yeah,
So
and I
if
think
you're
getting stuck and feeling possessed by your thoughts
Yeah.
as opposed to living is sort of what the risk is.
I guess you wouldn't be camping if you were fully prepared.
And I think
You would just like build a frickin' house
Yeah,
in
right.
the middle of nowhere, That would be
Yeah.
being
Right.
fully prepared.
Absolutely, yeah. That is interesting. I really liked the promo shoot. It's black and white. So here it is. Yeah, there you go. There you go. And so we have all members of the ensemble surrounding Celeste. There is a suitcase. So the travel. So on the right of the image is a suitcase. But you're holding a box, and there's something like intriguing about this box. So what's the thought process behind this image and the significance of the box?
There's nothing in it.
It seems that there's nothing. Yes, there's nothing in this box. Why is there nothing in the box?
relating to what we're talking about, there's a lot of mental constructs
Yeah.
going on. Sometimes we're overthinking it, sometimes we're ignoring it completely, that these things are happening
Yeah.
or affecting the way that we're thinking.
We were standing around the location of this site, and they had a bunch of suitcases around.
I honestly thought nothing of compared to how much I've thought about the
About the
music,
lyrics,
I have
yeah.
not. I've spent about 1 second thinking
About the photo
photos.
shoot.
I could I don't know,
But-
pretend that it's about something.
Yeah. So, and we could tease meaning that there's nothing in the box,
Yeah.
but there is
I
something
think
in
there
the,
is.
there is something in the box. It reminds me of the video for Old News. That's
Yeah.
the one with the video.
Yeah.
And this sense there is something happening, and we can
Right.
see this. We're kind of in a tapestry with
And
this
that was
video.
directed by Cody Brown, the
Oh, it was.
drummer.
Oh, yeah.
Another project where I decided to let go and just let Cody have at it.
Yeah.
And
Again, there's multiple levels, because within the narrative, you kind of let go as well, because there's this thing. How do we describe it?
Yeah, it's like a purple squishy ball.
Yeah, squishy ball. Yeah, but it seems like alien. It's
energy,
Swoosh, what do
life
you call those?
force.
yeah, life force. Yeah.
Well, and within that music video, there's a reference to Star Trek.
Oh yes.
Ian's
yeah.
watching.
Ian is
on-
watching it.
on what is the episode called? Do you remember? It's one where Deanna Troi gets impregnated by an
A orb of
alien
light.
or light orb,
Yeah.
Yep.
and in a way is sort of possessed by it
Mm.
and trying to figure it out. And I don't know exactly if that's what Cody had in mind, but it's referenced in the music video, and there's something to that.
Yeah. So all of you guys are around a box, and doesn't seem to be anything in the box, but the fact that Celeste is looking in the box leads to everybody investigating it. And then in the video, only Celeste can see and sense this orb. As one might expect, it's kind of anxiety-inducing and troubling until the end, and then you do kind of engage with it, and then it's almost as if we're in the box with you, and at the very end of the video, something is happening, and we never really know what's happening. It seems like Celeste does though. In those final moments of the video, what's happening there? Do you think?
I think I'm possessed. What's happening? And I mean that in a cognitive way.
And what do you mean by that?
Old News is sort of about knowing someone, whether it's yourself or someone else, who is stuck, feeling stuck in whatever situation, and it's sort of looking for the path out, which I think is sort of where kind of Cold Light comes in. Cold
Yeah.
Light is sort of the path to approaching your fear, basically. A lot of it is about fear, delusion.
Yeah.
And
Denial.
they're both night themes,
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
In that song, there seems to be, again, a surprise moment of revelation. So near the end of the song, at wit's end I fell to the ground, forgot my purpose, curse was lifted, didn't know it till the weight was gone. That's the culmination of the narrative in the song. What happens before that moment, and what's the significance of building up to that specific moment?
Well, the cold light, solid night part is sort of describing this feeling of heaviness,
Yeah.
and the coldness sort of relates to fear. The whole narrative of the song is sort of going down a path in the woods and not trusting yourself initially, and then ultimately sort of taking a leap of faith, which in my mind relates to the fool character in tarot, is sort of a beginning. You know, it's sort of the fool is a zero. Something about to happen. There's potential. It's
Okay.
about potential, yeah. But also just not knowing how to take the leap of faith until you do.
Yeah.
You could overthink that forever
Yeah.
about everything. It relates again to safe. It's sort of approaching yourself and questioning your own awareness of situations and sort of
Yeah.
reflecting on that.
your emphasis initially was on not trusting oneself, but there's a sense, so cold light, solid night, stunned and lured and slighted. So there's also this sense with those three terms of not trusting others if one's been lured and slighted.
Yeah, it's also just not trusting the process. It's feeling a compulsion
Yeah.
to look within,
Yeah.
and what you see maybe you don't like, so you want to run away, fight or flight kind of thing happens with yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just more following the compulsion. It's less about being lured by someone else as being lured by
Just
negativity.
Meter is really important in the song. So we were talking before about the importance of working with Cody and the drums, but we could isolate these lyrics. For many of your songs, they would work well as poems, I think. So the lyrics specifically to Cold Light, there is an established meter. Like we could analyze it as poetry, I think. Camouflaged, for example. There's lots of words which have three syllables. And what is the significance of that, of the fact of how metric the vocal is?
I think with that song, I did write it when I was in the woods, and in my head was thinking of the melody. So I think that's how it relates. Is just it didn't need to fit into anything. It just the words created sort of the melody.
Yeah. So the words themselves were kind of the architect of the song. Let's witness the full band performance of this song, Cold Light, at the Minnehaha Recording Company, and then come back and think a bit more about how it developed from that journey in the woods into this wonderful thing. So here we go. This is the second of three performances by BATTLERAT. This is Cold Light at the Minnehaha Recording Company.
Cold light, solid night, stunned and lured and slighted. Dead heat, sudden feet, the uninvited from above. Still
chord progression. It's not something that a guitar player can just jam over.
You can't noodle through it.
You can't noodle. You can't fake it. You know, Celeste can fake it. You know, but
It's interesting you said, so Celeste can fake it, to fake the noodling to the song, and then you had a focus on staying true to the song, and those two ideas lead to the song Faking It.
Our last meal.
The idea of safety and fidelity comes up in this song, but there's a sense of, well, this seems good, but were we just faking it? What's going on with Faking It?
Well, coming at the end of the album,
Yeah.
I think it's sort of a response to the other songs. It's sort of a dispossession through acknowledgement, awareness, and reflection.
What do you mean by dispossession? That's really intriguing. If the book ends cold light and faking it, are we talking about possession in that respect, the idea of being possessed, like in the video?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But all on sort of a mental level.
Yeah.
And so that I get this concept from a book called The Dispossession.
Okay. Who's the book by?
Ursula K. Le Guin.
What's the thesis of the book?
Well, there's a physicist from anarchistic planet who, you know, comes to this other planet to study them. It's one of their theories that all of these people being possessed literally by things, objects, ideas, authority, and to him that's ridiculous. Just that concept I thought was really powerful.
your concept is a little different than when we think of possessed. We think of like possessed by a spirit or a demon or something like that.
Or the light?
But we're really kind of possessed by things.
Our concept
By our
of
possession.
You know, by
Our possession.
I mean,
Well,
that's
also-
the word.
Yeah.
our concept
What we
of
possess.
reality, our concept of what words mean and how we apply them to ourselves and create an identity.
But there's a dispossession? That's what the name of the novel is.
Yeah.
And in Faking It, there's a
Right.
dispossession.
And it sort of has to do with free agency, unbiased
Yeah.
free agency, where sort of an anarchistic concept, but not to go into that too much, but it feels like there's an awareness there by asking the question.
Okay,
And
one is less likely to be inauthentic if one's asking the question, are we just faking it?
well, there's an answer in it too. It's the, you know, we were just.
But there's also past tense.
Yeah.
So were we just, we were just.
It's in the middle of that thought process.
Yeah.
I think we were. And it's also second guessing that too, so it's kind of funny because there's no resolve.
Yeah.
It's sort of like even at the end when it sounds resolved, we were just faking it. It's like, but then you like turn the corner and you're like, I don't know, were we just faking it?
There's a celebratory feel to like how it sounds.
Yeah.
It's just a really fun song. The protagonist doesn't seem too hard on themselves for
Yeah.
having faked it.
It doesn't have to be tragic all
Yeah.
the time. It could be just acknowledging the reality, yeah.
We're just faking it.
The fast and few know where they're heading to. Okay, so again, they're going on their camping trip. Then they're going to set up a house in the field. They're going to be safe. They're going to be okay. Know where they're heading to. Where are they heading to? So the question immediately follows. So it's interesting how the song kind of draws attention to desire for knowledge about a specific thing, and then immediately highlights that we don't possess that. We don't have the answer. Where are they heading to?
And really, it's
Yeah.
back to the old news lyric as well.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, making old news new news. Again.
Right. Both about different journeys.
Where is there to go? Yeah. So who are the fast and the few?
People that give the appearance that they're on the right track that they want to be on and doing what they should be doing, they're supposed to do with their lives.
Maybe people for whom there are no monsters there. What does it mean for there to be no monsters? Because that's in Safe. There's a refrain about, no, there were no monsters. No threats abounded. There were no monsters.
Well,
it's
there
good.
obviously were monsters.
Yeah, it's good for there to be monsters. Is it good to be? Is it good for there to be monsters?
I don't know, but there are monsters, and I think those lines sort of refer to convincing yourself of something. The song's also about, comforting yourself or other people. The fact that there are monsters it's not an argument for being over-prepared or under-prepared. It's just...
So what are monsters? Are monsters like monstrous people, or are monsters like anxieties?
I think everyone has their own monsters in their
Yeah.
lives, and sometimes it's specific people or things that have happened to them.
Anything that's scary or anything that induces fear.
Right.
So it seems like a recurring thing then in the songs is there's this desire to not experience fear.
Right.
And if one can persuade oneself that there are no monsters, that you're not camping in the field where the bear can get in the tent, you're in a house, it's okay.
Right. I
then
think
things
both
will be
are
okay.
sort of concurrently true. I think there are things that we're obviously not preparing for that maybe we could be,
Yeah.
and vice versa.
Yeah.
I was gonna say that it kind of relates back to, you were bringing it back to how these lyrics relate to almost the trajectory or history of the band
Yes.
itself.
Yeah.
And I think it is relating back to, I remember when Celeste and I started playing these songs, or some of them, that, she expressed to me her feelings about performing live and putting these out there. And I think that that's a big concept here too.
Yes, there's a lot of self-reflection about creating and performing and
Well, and just
how
this
to
process
keep doing
of,
it. And
Yeah, the process of maybe fear or self-doubt in being a creator, being a writer, being a songwriter, performing music. Is this worth it? Is it worth it?
And it is
This making this album, done deal. It's just like, that's it. Sorry, sorry, not sorry.
How did it end up with the title?
that
Done
is
Deal?
pretty much how, I think I ended up saying it a lot
Yeah.
in terms of the decision-making process. Like, what am I going to do? This is it, done deal. And then as I kept saying it, it was just kind of funny to me that I don't know, just became obsessed with that phrase for a while. But it was very motivating for me to just make a decision and move on.
Yeah, cutting yourself off from over-analyzing something that you eventually realize is kind of holding you back from the ultimate expression or product or whatever you're trying to do. We can't sit here and overthink what our destination is. It's not really getting us anywhere.
So sometimes one arrives at the destination by just determining we're there, done deal. It's like that creates the fact.
Kind of like what's in the box too.
Exactly,
Well,
I
it's
was
full
thinking
of
of the box.
error. I mean, what is a record? What do we have to show for it, other than people listening to it?
Yeah. Although it is a very coherent record with like overlapping themes, and there's a nice trajectory with the possession and then the dispossession at the end. It's also a collection of songs that you determine, is this entity? Cavalier is a song that we haven't talked about yet. Just take the title to begin with. The idea of being cavalier, how does that speak to anything else on the record?
To me, it speaks to an attitude of arrogance. I think it happens often when you overthink something. You think you've thought about it so much that you must have figured it out.
Yeah, just the act of thinking, I've been on this journey so long, like I must have arrived at the
But I think
destination.
it also touches upon denial in a big way and sort of having the affront. For me, this song is
Dramatizing.
the saddest song on the album. So
Why
there's
is it the saddest?
Because it's, as opposed to the beginning songs where it's approaching the feeling of being lost or stuck openly, at this point, the figure does not realize they are stuck. They think they're past it.
Yeah.
So to me, that's really sad. And I think I tried to make that contrast as it being upbeat, although there's a darkness to it.
It's multivocal, I think, because so you have, fortunately, I'm lost at sea, and I'm putting kind of scare quotes on it, following. But the song invites that too, because shortly after that, but that's just a stretch, not a fact. So it's almost as if there's this correcting voice.
That line's also pointing at giving up completely. I think the other voice saying, no, you're not lost forever. There could be a way out.
So cavalier.
Although there's a skepticism and a concern about safely and steadily moving towards a pre-established destination, there's skepticism about the virtue of that throughout. But these two songs in the middle, like the titles, Forward, Cavalier, the titles seem to almost be in line with the thing that there's skepticism about. So momentarily we'll close the episode with the full band performance of this. Is there a celebration of forward movement here?
I think it's more like the myth of Sisyphus.
Ah, yeah, I love
kind of
Camus and
concept.
Sisyphus.
So, yeah, you
Glad you
just
get
have to
looking.
keep doing it. And you maybe don't know why, and it's a focus, it's maybe a compulsion or an obligation, and you're just gonna do it.
Yeah, so there's
And
forward motion, but
You'll
not
get to the
necessarily
end and then
progress.
you'll do it again.
Yeah.
And then come to the end of Forward, and musically it goes back.
Not only is forward counterintuitively cyclical, so we're moving forward through the song, but then we end up where we began with the lyrics toward a place, point or time. So we've moved toward a place, point or time that is actually the
And then
beginning.
you're there again. Yep, you're back at the bottom of the...
I don't know
hill.
escape. Yes, and we don't know escape. We're back where we began. And the same thing is true though of Cold Lights. So both
Yep.
of the opening tracks in terms of song structure,
Right.
we arrive back where we began, and there aren't choruses to these songs. In lieu of a chorus, there is the first and last verse are the same, and so there's a kind of comforting feel to that. Oh, I've been here before.
Just a mirroring of,
I
being
was
in the same
talking
place.
with your brother about the myth of Sisyphus
Oh,
in
is that
this
right?
room. Yes,
That's funny.
with Kai for the Yana interview. He was positing that what if Sisyphus enjoys the process? And so, you get up the hill. What if Sisyphus's favorite part is when the boulder rolls down the hill? And he's like, yes, I get to do
I
it
mean,
again.
wouldn't it be his choice? Yeah.
Yeah.
It should be. I don't know. We got to talk about this with Kai now.
What progress will the two of you make?
Gotta write an
your
album.
philosophical discussion. Yeah.
that is the conclusion of Albert Camus' Myth of Sisyphus, is that you have to, all these analysis, what does it mean for us as humans and our psyche and everything, and philosophy, and
Yeah.
what direction are we going, and if this is an allegory for humanity, we have to imagine him enjoying it. Otherwise, it's just all sadness.
So what do we make then of the fact that this EP begins with two songs that resist forward movement but acknowledge our desire for it, and they're cyclical and we don't make any progress. Then there is in the center, Cavalier, we are lost at sea, but there's this like delusional celebration of being lost at sea. Do we have any thoughts on the trajectory as a whole?
All of the songs are just laced with tension. Changing perspectives throughout the songs, I think, is sort of the trajectory, but it doesn't change the fact that the tension is there. It's just maybe put in a little bit different.
It's not
light.
tension that gets eventually resolved, but there are moments of balance as well.
Yeah.
And
When
maybe
you said it, it's kind of the end of the faking at the end is a little bit a celebration.
yeah, right.
Almost.
Yeah.
I feel that. I feel like there's a certain kind of release of tension within that song, and just kind of like, funky, happy, happy to a degree.
Yeah, in the moment, enjoying it. Well, we're talking about there being no end as we approach an end, because there is as one can see from the bottom of the YouTube video, we're approaching the end. In fact, we have just the performance of Forward yet to come. Some of my favourite lyrics are in Forward, by the way. To be clear, where tall tales reside, their heights they've been trying to hide. So the idea of not being scared of the tallness of one's tale and being found out.
Yeah,
Jealous.
and not being afraid of being afraid,
Yeah.
These are all just, we're human, and there's a lot of negativity that exists, and you know, we don't have to just deny that.
Yeah, neither being in hiding nor hiding from the monsters, perhaps.
Yeah.
And so you're not going to be in hiding, you're going to be gloriously performing this song momentarily to close the episode, and of course at the Eagles on Friday. So yeah, let's experience the tension and the balance in sonic form one last time. This is BATTLERAT performing Forward at the Minnehaha Recording Company.